The morning she slapped the fine notice on my front door, I was still dripping from the lake. Towel around my shoulders, coffee in hand. I opened the door thinking it might be a neighbor with muffins. Instead, I found a bright orange paper with bold red letters. Violation unauthorized water entry. Fine, $1,000. I laughed out loud. Thought it was a prank. But the signature at the bottom wasn't a joke. It was scrawled in thick Sharpie. Karen M. Atwood President, Lakeside Harmony HOA. It was her again. Karen, the queen of community control. She'd made it her mission to turn our peaceful lake neighborhood into a bureaucratic circus. First it was the approved lawn tones, then the silent garbage bin rule, and now, swimming in the damn lake. I lived here. I bought the land legally. My cabin backed right up to the waterline. For 2 years I'd swum every morning, no issue. No complaints. Then Karen moved into the pastel monstrosity across the cove last spring, and suddenly everything became a crime. I took the fine notice straight to the HOA box near the mail cluster and shoved it back in. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Karen. "Mr. Ellis," she drawled, that smugness oozing through the phone like syrup on a hot sidewalk. Ignoring an official citation is grounds for double penalties. "Karen," I said, "you don't own the lake." "Actually," she snapped, "Lakeside Harmony owns riparian rights along the shore. You, sir, access the water from your private dock without HOA swim approval." Swim approval? She didn't even flinch. "We're implementing a new aquatic decorum policy. For safety." I hung up. Because if I didn't, I was going to say something that would land me on the front page of the town paper. I didn't pay the fine, so she doubled it. Then she sent a letter saying I was disqualified from HOA amenities, including the community trash pickup, the private dock access, which I didn't even use, and get this neighborhood watch protection. That's when I stopped laughing and started planning. What Karen didn't know, what she never bothered to learn, was that I wasn't just a quiet cabin guy. Before I retired, I worked in municipal planning and tax zoning enforcement for 22 years. I knew how property rights worked. I knew exactly what HOAs could and couldn't do. And more importantly, I knew how to dig through public records. I spent 2 straight days in the county archives, poring through land deeds, water usage easements, shoreline ordinances, and HOA boundary maps. What I found made my heart race. Karen had overstepped. Big time. Not only did my property predate the formation of Lakeside Harmony, by nearly 14 years it was part of a grandfathered exemption written into the original community charter, which meant the HOA had no legal jurisdiction over my dock, my water usage, or wait for it, me lake access. But that wasn't all. Turns out Karen had used a loophole to reduce her own HOA fees by claiming her lot was a community beautification buffer, which gave her a 25% reduction annually, a claim that had never been verified. In fact, she'd never once submitted her required landscaping certification. So I filed a challenge. Quietly, professionally, legally, and I included with it my notarized copy of the original land survey, proving my property's HOA immunity, plus the flagged HOA annual fee roll Karen had signed fraudulently. Then I waited. 3 weeks later, at the next HOA board meeting, which I made sure to attend, I sat in the back corner as Karen opened with her usual smug gavel thump. "First order of business," she announced. "Continued violations from Lot 74 BMR, Ellis." I stood. Calmly. "Actually," I said, sliding my folder onto the podium, "before we proceed, I believe there's a jurisdictional matter we should resolve." The room went silent. Karen blinked. "Excuse me." I passed out copies of my land documents to the board members. "As you can see, my property sits outside the governing bounds of Lakeside Harmony, confirmed by both county and state records. Any citations issued to me under HOA policy are legally null." One of the younger board members, a law student named Troy, flipped through the papers, eyes wide. Karen was fuming. "That's impossible. Everyone on this lake is under Harmony regulation." "Not quite," I said. "My parcel is part of the original settlement zone. I have full private access to the water. Your aquatic decorum policy doesn't apply to me." The room murmured. Karen tried to speak again, but I raised one more document. "And this," I said, smiling, "is a formal request to the county tax assessor's office to review your beautification status claim. You've been receiving a fee reduction under false pretenses. If confirmed, You'll owe back payments totaling approximately $10,462 over 4 years. Plus interest. You could hear a pin drop. Karen's face drained of color. For once, she had no words. Just the sound of her gavel clinking gently against the wood as her hand trembled. Karen's voice cracked as she tried to recover. This is slander. It's an ambush. This man is twisting documents to intimidate this board. But the damage was already done. Troy, the law student, cleared his throat. Actually, Karen, I interned with the county clerk's office last summer. Mr. Ellis's documents are legitimate. And if what he says is true, then not only is he exempt from HOA regulations, but you've been receiving illegal reductions possibly fraudulently since you moved in. Karen's eyes darted, panicked. That's absurd. I was told I qualified. By who? Someone in the back of the room asked. There was no answer. The board motioned for a recess, but the room had already turned into a full-on mutiny. Neighbors who had been fined for everything from mailbox colors to having too many garden gnomes started murmuring, rising from their seats. One man, Paul from Lot 61, pulled out his phone and read aloud a violation notice he'd received for excessively vibrant front porch seating. You fined me $250 for red Adirondack chairs, he said to Karen, voice shaking. But you've been lying about your own dues for 4 years. A woman with 2 toddlers stood. You made me tear out my herb garden because it was non-conforming to lakefront uniformity. But you planted artificial turf and called it community integration? Karen tried to shout over the noise. This meeting is out of order. But no one cared. Not anymore. That night, the entire neighborhood forum blew up. Posts on Nextdoor, screenshots of the fee document I'd exposed, neighbors sharing horror stories of Karen's fake citations, her surprise, visual inspections, her harassment of non-native speakers in the community. Every buried resentment came bubbling up like a geyser. By the end of the week, 5 board members had resigned. Troy filed a motion to dissolve the HOA entirely. And Karen? Karen did something I never thought I'd see. She went quiet. Not her usual dramatic storming or shrieking or threats of legal action. She simply stopped showing up. No HOA patrols. No memos. No clipboard parades. Her house sat quiet, shades drawn. Her overwatered petunias drooped under the sun. Then came the notice. A certified letter from the county tax office was posted publicly. Turns out, they found multiple discrepancies in Karen's filings, including a fabricated landscaping invoice and a falsified environmental maintenance report. She was fined, audited, ordered to repay $10,462 plus $1,900 in late penalties. And guess who showed up to personally verify the reassessment? Me. I stood at the edge of her front lawn, clipboard in hand this time, with the actual county assessor as he snapped photos of her overly irrigated buffer zone. Karen opened her front door. She looked smaller than I remembered her. No makeup, hair undone, a tired bathrobe hanging off one shoulder. I nodded politely. She didn't say a word. I didn't need her to. Justice doesn't always come in the form of a courtroom or a shouting match. Sometimes it arrives slowly, silently, in a stack of documents and the quiet dignity of someone who refused to bend. But that's not where the story ends. After the HOA dissolved, something incredible happened. We came together without rules, without fines, without laminated nonsense. Neighbors who had barely spoken before now helped repaint each other's decks. A retired art teacher offered to lead a mural project on the community shed. The lake? It was full of laughter again. Swimmers, paddleboarders, dogs splashing. No more aquatic decorum policies. Just joy. We organized a summer picnic, our first one, not mandated or micromanaged. No dress code. No approved dishes list. Just potluck, coolers, and that feeling of real community. I grilled ribs by the shore while Paul DJ'd from his porch. Someone made a cake shaped like a gavel and wrote in red frosting, "Karen, you're out of order." And the best part? We voted to reclassify the land that Karen once claimed as a community buffer into a pollinator garden, led by the woman whose herb garden she'd once destroyed. It's now registered with the state's conservation program, meaning Karen's fake tax break? Never coming back. But the twist? A few months later, I got a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten. No envelope. Just folded and tucked under the flag. It was from Karen. Just 1 page. Carefully written. "Mr. Ellis, you beat me fair. I got drunk on control, and forgot why I moved here in the first place. I thought rules would give me safety. I thought control would give me peace. But they only gave me distance from others and from myself. I've decided to sell. Maybe I'll move somewhere quiet where I don't need to manage anyone to feel secure. Don't worry, I won't fight the fees. I earn them. Okay. I read it 3 times. Then set it down. That weekend, her house listed. A few weeks later, a young couple with 3 kids moved in. They painted the porch yellow, planted sunflowers, built a swing set. No one complained. Sometimes, all it takes is one ridiculous fine to reveal just how broken the system really is. And sometimes, all it takes to fix it is to swim anyway. What would you have done in my shoes? Should HOA fines be allowed for private water access? Share your thoughts and stories re-listening.